Hello, and welcome back to another useful episode here at Code Your English. I'm really glad you're here with me today. In this episode, we're going to talk about something that touches all of us at some point in life: forgiveness. Now, you might already have ideas about what forgiveness means, or maybe you've struggled with it yourself. Either way, I invite you to stay with me and listen with an open heart. This topic isn't just about learning English today. It's also about learning something that can bring more peace and strength into your life. Forgiveness matters because, at the end of the day, we all get hurt sometimes. People disappoint us. They break promises, say things that wound us, or do things that feel unfair. And let's be honest, we also make mistakes. We hurt others, often without meaning to. Life is full of these moments, and if we don't learn how to deal with them, we can end up carrying a lot of pain inside us. Forgiveness helps us let go of that pain. It's like putting down a heavy bag we've been carrying on our back for a long time. Imagine walking for years with that weight. How would it feel to finally drop it and stand tall again? Many people think that forgiving means saying what happened was okay. But that's not true. Forgiveness doesn't mean you have to forget what happened. It doesn't mean you have to trust the person again, or let them back into your life. And it definitely doesn't mean you are weak. In fact, forgiveness takes a lot of strength and courage. It's one of the bravest choices a person can make, because it's about healing yourself, not the other person. When we forgive, we choose to stop letting that hurt control us. We choose peace over pain. I know that forgiving can feel difficult. Maybe you're thinking, but what they did was too big. How can I ever forgive that? Or perhaps you've tried before, but the feelings of anger or sadness keep coming back. That's okay. Forgiveness is not something that happens in one moment. It's more like a journey, one that we take step by step. And sometimes, it's a journey we have to take again and again. There's no need to rush, and there's no perfect way to do it. As we move through this episode together, I encourage you to stay curious. What does forgiveness mean to you? What might it look like in your life? Maybe you're ready to forgive someone else. Or maybe you need to forgive yourself. Whatever your situation, I hope this conversation helps you see that forgiveness is not about the other person winning. It's about you finding freedom. So take a deep breath, and let's explore this topic together. By the end, I hope you'll feel inspired to take a small step, no matter how small, towards forgiveness in your own life. What forgiveness really means, and what it doesn't. Let's take a deeper look at what forgiveness really means, and what it doesn't. I think this is one of the biggest reasons people struggle with forgiveness. There are so many ideas out there about what it should look like, or what it must mean, that we often get confused. Maybe you've heard people say, just forgive and forget. But is that even possible? And is it really healthy? The truth is, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And it doesn't mean saying that what happened was okay. It doesn't mean excusing bad behavior or pretending that something painful didn't happen. Let's be honest. Some things are simply too big, too hurtful, to be forgotten. And actually, trying to forget can sometimes make things worse, because we push down our true feelings instead of dealing with them. Forgiveness is not about saying, it's fine, no problem. It's not about letting someone who hurt you off the hook, or letting them escape responsibility for what they did. People are still responsible for their actions. They still have to face the consequences of their choices. Forgiving someone doesn't change that. What forgiveness does is change you. It changes what's happening inside your heart and mind. It helps you stop carrying the heavy weight of anger, sadness, or bitterness. You see, holding on to that pain is like carrying heavy luggage everywhere you go. Imagine walking through your life with a huge, heavy suitcase. Every step feels harder. Every day feels more tiring. And after a while, you may even forget what it feels like to walk freely without it. Forgiveness is like setting that suitcase down. It's like saying, I don't want to carry this anymore. I'm tired of feeling this way. I deserve peace. In fact, I want you to think of forgiveness as a gift. Not a gift that you give to the person who hurt you, but a gift that you give to yourself. When we forgive, we're not changing the past. We can't change the past, no matter how much we wish we could. What we're changing is our relationship with the past. We're choosing not to let it control our present or our future. Forgiveness is like freeing yourself from a mental prison. When we hold on to resentment, we lock ourselves inside. We stay stuck in the same painful story, replaying it again and again in our minds. But when we forgive, it's like unlocking the door and stepping outside into the fresh air. We realize that we can choose peace instead of pain. And that's powerful, isn't it? Of course, that doesn't mean forgiveness is easy. It's not a magic word that makes everything better in 1 second. Sometimes we need time. Sometimes we need help from a friend, a counselor, or even just from our own deeper reflection. And sometimes we need to forgive the same person more than once, because the feelings come back. That's normal. Forgiveness is a process. It's not a one-time event. It's something we practice, just like we practice any other skill in life. And the more we practice, the stronger we become at it. You might be wondering, if I forgive, do I have to be friends with that person again? The answer is no. Forgiveness and trust are two different things. Forgiving someone doesn't mean you have to let them back into your life. It doesn't mean you have to give them another chance to hurt you. You can forgive in your heart and still set healthy boundaries. That's actually a sign of self-respect. Forgiveness is about healing your heart, not about fixing or changing the other person. And what about forgiving ourselves? Sometimes that's even harder than forgiving others. We can be so hard on ourselves for mistakes we made in the past. We replay those moments, those bad choices, and we feel shame or regret. But just like forgiving others, forgiving ourselves is about letting go of that heavy baggage. It's about saying, I am human. I made mistakes. But I can learn, I can grow, and I can move forward. Because if we don't forgive ourselves, we stay trapped in that same mental prison. And we deserve to be free. We deserve to give ourselves the same kindness we would offer a friend. So, as we continue this conversation, I invite you to think about this. What ideas about forgiveness have been holding you back? Have you ever thought that forgiving someone meant saying what they did was okay? Or have you ever been afraid that if you forgive, you'll seem weak or foolish? If so, you're not alone. These thoughts are common. But I hope this helps you see that forgiveness is not about weakness at all. In fact, it's one of the strongest, most powerful choices we can make. Because it takes courage to let go of pain. It takes strength to choose peace over bitterness. And it takes wisdom to realize that we're the ones who suffer the most when we refuse to forgive. So, let's continue this journey together. In the next part of this podcast, we'll explore why forgiving is so difficult and what makes it feel so hard sometimes, even when we know it would help us. But for now, take a moment. Breathe. Think about that heavy suitcase. What would it feel like to finally set it down? Why forgiving is so difficult? Let's be honest. Forgiveness sounds like a beautiful idea, but in real life, it can feel incredibly hard to do. Maybe you've experienced this yourself. You know in your mind that forgiving someone could help you feel better. You understand that holding on to anger only hurts you in the end. And yet, when the moment comes, your heart just isn't ready. Why is that? Why is forgiving so difficult, even when we know it would bring us peace? One big reason is the emotional weight that comes with being hurt. When someone betrays us, lies to us, or lets us down, it's natural to feel anger or sadness. These feelings can be so strong that they stay with us long after the event is over. And sometimes, holding on to anger feels safer than letting it go. Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever held onto anger because it made you feel stronger or more protected? In a strange way, anger can feel like armor, like a hard shell that keeps us from getting hurt again. But while it might protect us for a short time, it also keeps us closed off. It stops us from healing. Another reason forgiveness is so hard is because of pride. When someone hurts us, our sense of dignity feels attacked. We might think, why should I forgive them? They don't deserve it. Or, if I forgive, it will look like I'm weak. Pride tells us to stand tall, to show we're strong. But here's the thing. Real strength isn't about holding grudges. Real strength is about knowing when to let go so that you can move forward. Forgiveness doesn't mean lowering yourself. In fact, it lifts you up. Perfectionism can also get in the way. Some of us expect ourselves, and others, to be perfect. So when people fail us, we can't accept it. We think, they should have known better. I would never do that. But the truth is, no one is perfect. We all make mistakes. If we wait for perfection before we forgive, we might be waiting forever. And let's not forget about fear. Forgiving someone means opening your heart again, even just a little. And that can feel scary. What if the person hurts you again? What if forgiving makes you vulnerable? These fears are very real, and they can stop us from taking the first step. But what's important to remember is that forgiving doesn't mean trusting blindly. You can forgive and still protect yourself with healthy boundaries. Our culture and upbringing also play a big role in how we view forgiveness. In some cultures, forgiveness is seen as a sign of wisdom or spiritual strength. In others, people are taught to never forget and never forgive as a way to show honor or strength. The way we were raised, what we saw in our families, what we heard from our community, shapes our beliefs about what it means to forgive. Maybe you grew up hearing that forgiveness is only for the weak, or that it's something only certain people deserve. Or maybe you were taught that forgiveness is necessary no matter what. All of these messages can make the process more confusing when we try to forgive in our own lives. So if you've found it hard to forgive, know that you're not alone. There are many reasons why the heart holds on to pain, but at the same time, you can choose a new path. The first step is to understand what's really stopping you. Is it anger, pride, fear, or maybe a mix of all these things? The more honest you are with yourself, the easier it becomes to take small steps toward forgiveness. Steps that are right for you. How holding grudges hurts us. Let's talk about what really happens when we hold on to a grudge. I want you to think about this carefully, because sometimes, when we feel hurt or angry, we believe that holding on to those feelings gives us power. We tell ourselves, I can't let this go. They don't deserve my forgiveness. Or maybe we think that staying angry somehow protects us from being hurt again. But the truth is, holding a grudge doesn't protect us. It doesn't make us stronger. In fact, it often hurts us far more than it hurts the person we're angry at. When we hold on to resentment, it begins to affect both our mind and body. Have you ever noticed how thinking about something painful makes your heart beat faster? Maybe your muscles feel tense, or your stomach feels tight. This is your body's stress response. It's like your body is preparing to fight or run away. Even though the danger isn't happening right now, it's just a memory. And when we stay in that state of stress for a long time, it starts to wear us down. People who hold grudges often experience anxiety, headaches, stomach problems, or even difficulty sleeping. Imagine lying in bed at night, going over the same hurtful event again and again in your mind. Your body can't relax. Your mind can't rest. After a while, you feel tired, not just physically, but emotionally too. This is the real cost of holding on to anger. I want to share a story with you. Maybe you'll find it familiar. There was a man I knew who had a falling out with his brother. They argued over money, and in the heat of the moment, harsh words were exchanged. Both felt hurt, but neither wanted to say sorry. The man told me, "I'll never forgive him." What he did was unforgivable. And so, the years passed. Every time someone mentioned his brother, you could see the tension in his face. His voice would change. He'd get upset all over again. Meanwhile, his brother had moved on with his life. But this man stayed stuck in that painful memory. And over time, it affected him in other ways. His relationships with other family members became strained because they didn't want to take sides. He started having trouble sleeping, and his stress levels were high. And what was so sad was that deep down, he missed his brother. But his pride and his anger kept him locked in a place of pain. I sometimes wonder, if he had chosen forgiveness earlier, how much happier and healthier might he have been? And that brings me to a question I want you to reflect on. Is that pain really worth carrying for so long? When we refuse to forgive, we often think we are punishing the other person. But most of the time, they aren't feeling our anger at all. They may not even be thinking about what happened. We are the ones who keep feeling the weight of it. We are the ones who suffer. So, who is really being punished? I'm not saying that it's easy to let go of deep hurt. And I'm not saying that we should forget what happened or pretend it didn't matter. But I am inviting you to think about what you're carrying and how it's affecting your life. Resentment is like a poison that we drink, hoping it will hurt the other person. But in the end, it only hurts us. Our peace, our health, our joy, all of these are too valuable to sacrifice for the sake of holding a grudge. As we continue, I hope you'll ask yourself, what might change in my life if I put down that heavy weight? Maybe it won't happen overnight. Maybe it will take time and practice. But even the smallest step toward forgiveness can help you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel lighter inside. And isn't that what we all want? To feel free, to feel at peace, and to live with an open heart? How to start forgiving, even when it feels impossible. So now, let's talk about something that might be on your mind. How can I even begin to forgive, especially when it feels impossible? Maybe the hurt runs deep. Maybe the person who hurt you never said sorry, or maybe they don't even seem to care. Maybe the memory of what happened keeps playing in your head, and just the thought of forgiving makes you feel uncomfortable or even angry. These feelings are normal. Forgiveness is one of the hardest things we can do, especially when the pain is fresh, or when the wound has been with us for a long time. But like any difficult journey, it starts with small steps. And the good news is, you don't have to do it all at once. As the saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day. Forgiveness, like anything meaningful, takes time and patience. The very first step is to acknowledge the hurt. This might sound simple, but it can actually be quite challenging. Sometimes we try to hide our pain, even from ourselves. We say things like, "It's fine, I don't care," or "I'm over it." But deep down, the hurt is still there, waiting to be seen and heard. When we acknowledge the hurt, we give ourselves permission to feel what we feel. We stop pretending that everything is okay, and we start being honest with ourselves. You might want to take some quiet time to reflect. Ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling? Is it anger, sadness, disappointment, shame? The more clearly you can name your emotions, the easier it becomes to understand them. And understanding is a key part of healing. Once you've acknowledged your feelings, the next step is to understand them. Try to look at the situation from different angles. What happened, and why did it hurt you so much? What values of yours were crossed or broken? Maybe it was a sense of trust, or fairness, or loyalty. Sometimes we feel hurt not just because of what happened, but because it touched something very important to us. Understanding your feelings doesn't mean you have to agree with what was done. It simply means you are exploring your inner world with kindness and curiosity, and that helps you move forward. The next small but powerful step is to set your intention to forgive. And this is where mindset comes in. Forgiveness doesn't just happen by accident. It begins with a decision, a choice you make, even if you don't feel ready to take action yet. Setting an intention is like planting a seed. You may not see the results right away, but with care and patience, that seed can grow into something beautiful. You can say to yourself, "I want to forgive because I want peace in my life. I may not know how yet, but I am open to starting the process." This mindset, this openness, is what keeps you moving forward, even when the road feels long. And yes, the road is often long. Forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's not something you can check off a list and be done with forever. It's a process, and sometimes you'll feel like you're making progress. And then something will remind you of the hurt, and those feelings will come back. That's okay. It doesn't mean you've failed. It just means you are human. Remember the saying, one step at a time. Each small step, each moment when you choose peace over bitterness, brings you closer to freedom. And some days, the step might be as small as taking a deep breath and reminding yourself that you want to let go of the pain, even if you don't know how just yet. Let me share an example that might help you picture this more clearly. I knew a woman named Sarah who carried deep anger toward a friend who had betrayed her trust. For years, she refused to forgive. Every time she thought about that friend, she felt bitter. She would replay the betrayal in her mind, and it would ruin her mood for the whole day. One day, she realized how much energy she was spending on this anger. It was affecting her sleep, her relationships, and even her health. So, she decided to take small steps. First, she wrote down everything she felt: the hurt, the anger, the disappointment. Then, she began saying to herself each morning, "I am willing to move toward forgiveness, one step at a time." She didn't rush. She didn't force herself to feel something she didn't feel. But slowly, as the weeks and months passed, her heart began to soften. The memory of what happened didn't disappear, but it stopped controlling her. She found peace, not because she forgot, but because she chose to stop carrying the heavy weight of anger. You see, forgiveness doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to look a certain way. What matters is that you begin. and that you keep going, even if the progress feels slow. Some days will feel easier than others. Some days you might feel like you've taken 2 steps forward and 1 step back. That's part of the journey. Be patient with yourself. The most important thing is to stay consistent. Like learning a new skill or building a habit, the key is to keep practicing. With time, what once felt impossible can become possible. So, as you think about forgiveness in your own life, I invite you to ask yourself, what small step can I take today? Maybe it's writing down your feelings. Maybe it's saying a kind word to yourself. Maybe it's simply setting the intention in your heart to begin the journey. Whatever it is, remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, and your path to forgiveness will take shape 1 step at a time. Forgiving others versus forgiving yourself. So far, we've talked a lot about what it means to forgive others, why it's so difficult, and how to start the process. But there's another part of forgiveness that we sometimes forget, and that's forgiving ourselves. In fact, I believe that forgiving ourselves can often be even harder than forgiving other people. Why is that? Why do we find it so difficult to be kind to ourselves, even when we know that holding on to guilt or regret only brings more pain? Let's start by looking at how forgiving others and forgiving ourselves are different. When we forgive someone else, we are choosing to let go of the anger, sadness, or disappointment we feel toward them. We're saying, I no longer want this person's actions to control my emotions or my peace of mind. It's about freeing ourselves from the pain that another person's choices have caused. But when it comes to forgiving ourselves, we are both the one who caused the hurt and the one who is feeling it. That makes things much more complicated. We can't just walk away from ourselves or set a boundary like we might with another person. Instead, we have to live with ourselves every day, with our choices, our memories, and sometimes our regrets. This is where self-doubt often comes in. After we make a mistake, especially if it's a big one, we might begin to question our worth. We might think, how could I have done that? Or, what kind of person am I? These thoughts can be painful, and they can make it hard to move forward. The mistake starts to define how we see ourselves. Instead of viewing it as something we did, we start to believe it's who we are. And that makes self-forgiveness feel almost impossible, because how do you forgive yourself if you believe you're a bad person? Perfectionism also plays a big role. Many of us hold ourselves to very high standards. We expect ourselves to always do the right thing, to never make a wrong decision, to be kind and wise at all times. But the truth is, no one is perfect. We all make mistakes. We all say or do things that we wish we could take back. That's part of being human. But when we expect perfection from ourselves, we leave no room for understanding or compassion. We're quick to forgive a friend who says something hurtful when they're upset. We might tell them, "It's okay, I know you didn't mean it." But when we do the same thing, we might replay it in our heads over and over, punishing ourselves for not being better. I want to invite you to reflect on this. Are you kinder to others than you are to yourself? Take a moment and really think about it. If a good friend came to you, full of guilt about something they had done, how would you speak to them? Would you shame them? Would you tell them they're terrible and unworthy of forgiveness? Probably not. You'd likely listen with care. You'd remind them that everyone makes mistakes. You'd encourage them to learn from it and move forward. Now, imagine offering that same kindness to yourself. What would change if you spoke to yourself the way you would speak to a dear friend? Self-forgiveness is not about ignoring our mistakes or pretending they didn't happen. It's about facing them honestly, learning from them, and then choosing to let go of the guilt that keeps us stuck. It's about saying, yes, I made a mistake, but that mistake doesn't define me. I am more than the worst thing I've ever done. And just like forgiving others, forgiving yourself takes time. It's a process. Some days, you might feel at peace with your past. Other days, old feelings of regret might come back. That's normal. What matters is that you keep choosing compassion over self-criticism again and again. I know this isn't easy. Sometimes, the hardest person to forgive is the one we see in the mirror. But remember, forgiveness, whether for others or for yourself, is a gift. A gift that brings freedom, peace, and healing. You deserve that gift as much as anyone else. So, as we continue, I encourage you to ask yourself, what would it feel like to truly forgive myself? What would I gain if I let go of this self-blame and chose kindness instead? And maybe, just maybe, you can take the first step today. Practical tips for daily forgiveness. Practice. Now that we've talked about what forgiveness means, why it's hard, and how we can begin, let's explore some practical ways you can practice forgiveness in daily life. Because here's the thing. Forgiveness isn't a one-time event. It's not something that happens in a single moment, and then you're done. Instead, it's something we choose and practice again and again. And like any habit or skill, the more we practice, the easier it becomes. The good news is, forgiveness doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need to wait for some big emotional breakthrough. In fact, small, regular efforts are often much more powerful in the long run. One simple but powerful tool is journaling. Writing down your thoughts and feelings can help you see them more clearly. Sometimes, when we keep everything inside, our emotions get mixed up and confused. But when you write them down, you can begin to understand what's really going on in your heart. You might want to write about what happened, how it made you feel, and what you wish had been different. You can even write a letter to the person who hurt you, a letter you never send, just to express your feelings in a safe way. The goal isn't to make everything perfect with one letter or one page. The goal is to give your emotions a healthy place to go, instead of keeping them locked up inside. Another daily practice that can help is meditation. Now, when I say meditation, I don't mean you have to sit for hours in silence, trying to empty your mind. Even 5 or 10 minutes a day can make a difference. You can simply sit quietly, focus on your breathing, and gently bring your attention to the present moment. As you breathe in and out, you might repeat a phrase in your mind, like "I choose peace" or "I let go of anger." These simple words, combined with calm breathing, can help you feel more centered and open. Meditation can also remind us that forgiveness is not about the past or the future. It's about what we choose right now, in this moment. Talking to a friend, a family member, or even a therapist can also be a valuable part of your forgiveness practice. Sometimes, just saying things out loud helps us process our emotions in a new way. A supportive listener can help you see the situation from another point of view. They might ask questions that make you think, or they might simply give you space to express yourself. And sometimes, that's what we need most. Someone who will listen without judgment. If you feel comfortable, you can also ask for advice. But remember, the goal isn't always to find a perfect solution. Sometimes, the simple act of sharing your story helps lighten the weight you've been carrying. Another helpful habit is to practice reframing the story in your mind. What does that mean? It means looking at the situation with fresh eyes, or from a new angle. For example, instead of thinking, "They did this to hurt me on purpose," you might ask, Is it possible they acted out of their own pain or confusion? Or instead of thinking, I can never forgive myself for what I did, you might ask, what can I learn from this so I don't repeat it? Reframing isn't about making excuses for bad behavior. It's about helping yourself find a way to let go of the pain and to see the full picture with more compassion, both for others and for yourself. It's a way of reminding yourself that most people, including you, are doing the best they can with what they know at the time. Across cultures, forgiveness is often seen as a powerful part of personal and spiritual growth. Many traditions include practices that encourage reflection and forgiveness. For example, in Judaism, there is the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, a time when people reflect on their actions over the past year, ask for forgiveness, and offer forgiveness to others. Similarly, during the holy month of Ramadan in Islam, people are encouraged to reflect, to let go of anger and grudges, and to seek forgiveness from God and from those they may have harmed. These traditions remind us that forgiveness is not just a personal choice. It's something that connects us to others. It helps heal relationships, build community, and create peace, both inside ourselves and in the world around us. The most important thing to remember is that small, regular efforts are what truly make a difference over time. You don't need to wait for a perfect moment or a big emotional release to forgive. You don't need to feel ready to do it all at once. What matters is that you choose, again and again, to move in the direction of forgiveness. Even if the steps are small. A few quiet minutes of journaling, a short meditation, an honest conversation, or a single kind thought toward yourself or someone else. All of these small acts add up. They help build a habit of forgiveness, one day at a time. And over time, you may look back and realize that what once felt impossible now feels natural, even peaceful. So as you think about your own forgiveness journey, I encourage you to ask yourself, what small step can I take today? How can I practice forgiveness in my daily life, in a way that feels true to me? Remember, forgiveness isn't about changing the past. It's about creating a better, lighter, freer future for yourself and for those around you. What forgiveness can bring into your life? When we choose forgiveness, and I say choose because it really is a choice, something powerful begins to happen inside us. At first, it might feel small, like a soft breeze that's easy to miss. But with time, the change grows stronger. Our hearts begin to feel lighter. The heavy weight we've been carrying, sometimes without even realizing it, starts to lift. Imagine walking through life with a heavy backpack filled with anger, sadness, or regret. Every step feels harder than it needs to be. But when we forgive, it's as if we slowly take out those heavy items one by one. We begin to feel free again. And that feeling, that lightness of heart, is one of the greatest gifts forgiveness can bring into your life. Forgiveness also helps us build better relationships. When we let go of old grudges, we make space for understanding, kindness, and connection. Of course, this doesn't mean we have to forget what happened or allow harmful people back into our lives, but it does mean we can stop letting past hurts control how we treat others. Have you ever noticed how holding on to anger toward one person can affect how you act with everyone else? Maybe you become less patient, more closed off, or quicker to judge. But when you forgive, you open the door to healthier, warmer relationships. Not just with the person you forgave, but with everyone around you. You begin to trust more, to listen more, to love more fully. Forgiveness doesn't just heal one relationship, it helps heal the way you connect with the world. Another beautiful gift of forgiveness is peace of mind. Think about how much energy it takes to stay angry or bitter. Think about the hours we spend replaying hurtful moments in our heads, the nights we lie awake, the tension we carry in our bodies. All of that drains us. It keeps us stuck in the past and steals our joy in the present. But forgiveness lets us break free from that cycle. When we forgive, we allow ourselves to live in the now, rather than being trapped by what was. We give ourselves the chance to enjoy the simple moments: a good conversation, a walk in the sunshine, a quiet cup of tea, without the shadow of old pain darkening our days. And that kind of peace, the kind that fills your heart and mind, is priceless. Let me share a story with you. It's about a man named Daniel. Daniel carried anger for many years toward his father. When he was young, his father had been harsh and distant. Daniel felt unloved, and those feelings followed him into adulthood. Even after his father passed away, Daniel kept that anger inside. He thought that forgiving his father would mean saying that everything was okay. And to him, it wasn't okay. But over time, Daniel noticed how that anger was hurting him. It affected his marriage, his friendships, and his ability to enjoy life. One day, after a long walk alone, Daniel decided to try something different. He said to himself, "I can't change what happened, but I can choose to stop letting it control me." He didn't feel forgiveness all at once. It came slowly, in small moments, writing in his journal, talking to a trusted friend, and quietly saying kind words to himself. But as he kept choosing forgiveness, something unexpected happened. He began to feel free. The anger that had lived inside him for so long started to fade. He felt lighter, calmer, and more at peace. And in that peace, he found a kind of happiness he hadn't known in years. This is what forgiveness can bring into your life. It doesn't change the past. Nothing can. What's done is done. But forgiveness can change your future. It can change you. It can open doors that seemed closed. It can help you see the world with softer eyes and a gentler heart. It can give you the strength to move forward without the chains of old pain holding you back. And isn't that what we all want? A future where we feel free to love, to grow, to live fully? I hope that as you reflect on this, you'll remember that forgiveness isn't about letting someone else win. It's about letting you win. It's about choosing peace over pain, freedom over bitterness, hope over regret. It's not always easy, and it's not always quick. But every small step you take toward forgiveness is a step toward a lighter, brighter, more peaceful life. And that is something worth working for. Before we end today's episode, I'd like to invite you to take a quiet moment to reflect on everything we've talked about. Forgiveness is not always easy. It can be one of the hardest things we ever do. But it's also one of the most powerful gifts we can give ourselves. So I want to ask you, who do you need to forgive? Maybe it's someone close to you, a friend, a family member, a co-worker. Maybe it's someone from long ago, someone whose actions still hurt you, even today. Or maybe the person you most need to forgive is yourself. Sometimes we carry guilt or regret for years, punishing ourselves over and over for past mistakes. But what if you chose, just for a moment, to let that heavy weight go? What if you gave yourself permission to stop carrying that pain? Think about what forgiveness could change in your life. What would it feel like to wake up tomorrow without that grudge, that anger, or that sadness weighing on your heart? Would your mind feel clearer? Would your relationships feel warmer? Would you feel more free to enjoy your day, your work, your time with others? Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It doesn't mean saying everything is okay or trusting someone who has hurt you again. It means choosing peace over pain. It means choosing to stop letting the past control your future. It's about giving yourself the chance to heal, to breathe, and to move forward with a lighter heart. So here's my challenge for you this week. Try to take just one small step toward forgiveness. It doesn't have to be something big. Maybe you write down your feelings in a journal. Maybe you take a few quiet moments each morning to breathe deeply and say to yourself, I choose peace. Maybe you think of one kind or understanding thought about the person who hurt you, or about yourself if you're working on self-forgiveness. Small steps like these may not seem like much at first, but over time, they build a new habit, a new mindset. And with each small act, you get a little closer to the peace you deserve. I also encourage you to keep practicing your English as you think about this topic. Maybe you can talk about forgiveness with a friend or a language partner. Share your ideas, your reflections, or your own experiences. Speaking about meaningful topics like this can help you not only improve your language skills, but also connect more deeply with others. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you would subscribe to Code Your English if you haven't yet, share it with someone who might find it helpful, or leave a comment with your thoughts. Your support means a lot, and it helps build a community of people who are learning, growing, and supporting each other along the way. Remember, forgiveness is a journey. It takes time, courage, and kindness, especially toward yourself. But every small step counts. I hope today's conversation has inspired you to take that first step, and I look forward to being with you again in the next episode. Until then, take care and be gentle with yourself. You're doing the best you can, and that's more than enough.